From 2023 to the current day in 2024, I've traded up my portfolio over 120x, turning $5,000 into over $600,000. Now, ultimately, I did have failure in the past. I made mistakes. In 2021, I was rugged over $30,000 on an NFT scam. In 2017 cycle, I round-tripped my bags, essentially taking no profit off the table at all. So today's video, guys, is going to focus on my story, the lessons that I've learned, and ultimately how I've managed to turn $5,000 this cycle into over $500,000 inside the past year and a half. So obviously, please subscribe down below, smash a like button as well. And obviously, if you'd like to support the channel a little bit further, become a YouTube member using the link in the description below. Here's the video. So my story starts in 2016 when I first joined crypto, trading a lot of Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. I remember when Bitcoin was only 4 figures, which is pretty crazy to think about where it is now and where it obviously will be going in the future. But obviously, as it says here, guys, I did manage to turn $500 into 10K. However, the main lesson after many ICO rugs and after literally holding my bags from the lows all the way to the highs, I didn't take any profits. And so in 2016, I actually round tripped my bags, okay? Whilst I did make a 20x during that period of time, I failed to take any profits and actually walked away break even after that cycle. Now in 2018, I had obviously learned my lesson. I accumulated Ethereum and Bitcoin extremely hard. And essentially I made a lot of money from 2018 all the way through to 2021, just holding those two assets. However, obviously, then NFTs came into the market. Now that was obviously extremely exciting, but two main lessons there. One, I wasn't securely using the right wallets and using the right infrastructure. So I got rugged and I lost over $30,000 in one NFT scam, which was ultimately about 75% of my portfolio at the time. And the second lesson, guys, is that I again failed to take profits. So I stepped away, and what I was doing was essentially trying to chase my losses in that cycle. So again, even after making 15x in 2021 on a lot of Binance Smart Chain altcoins, I failed to lock in profits. I had actually opened a car loan in the time, so I was in debt in real life as well. So it was a terrible time in 2021 after that scam happened. So ultimately, you would think that a lot of people, after failing twice, guys, and making a lot of mistakes, would step away. However, that made me hungrier for even more success this time around. So in 2022 and leading into 2023 during the bear market, what I decided to do was to be extremely stringent and have an exit plan, which ultimately I had learned over the previous 8 years at that time, 7 years as it says here. Lots of lessons from the market and lots of ways that I could actually essentially make smarter financial choices around my trades. So that's what I'm going to speak to you about today, how I've turned 5K into over $600,000. And I'm going to talk about the strategies. I'm going to talk about my main lessons that I've learned during my last 9 years. And ultimately, I hope that you can take away some of the things that I've essentially failed at or made mistakes in, so that you don't make those same mistakes in your future or in your trading journey in cryptocurrency. Because as I do say, guys, this is an opportunity to make some life-changing gains. You just have to be smart about the way that you go about it. So ultimately, it started a lot with trying to trade some NFTs. Now, they were very much still the hype during the bear market, and as you can see here, I was trying to trade a lot of Drill Club on Polygon. I still obviously was in the Nifty portal, so we were making some bear market gains during that time. Obviously, little pudgies ran up over 2 ETH, so I managed to make a few trades that were really good. However, we started to realize that a lot of these mints, these NFT mints, were really starting to fail from the 2021 cycle. So what I started to realize is that, one, you're burning a lot of Ethereum due to the high gas fees, but two, they're just not the same lucrative rewards like we saw in 2021. And so the first lesson, guys, is from 2017 all the way through to where we are today, is that cycles are very different. And you have to become an adaptable trader. People always stick to one particular way, or they've been holding Bored Ape Yacht Club literally from the highs in 2021 all the way to the lows now. ultimately the best skill that I've learned, guys, is to become an adaptable trader. And so this cycle, guys, I did manage to make some crazy trades throughout the bear cycle, and that really set me up really nicely moving into the start of this year in 2024, once the market really started to take off. So I actually bought CAS, as you can see here, in the end of 2022 at a really low evaluation. And I made a 26x essentially. I have taken profits on this trade at the end of last year, as you can see, but ultimately I found this during just the ultimate sort of bear market stage. As you can see here, it's an alternative layer one. It's actually faster than Bitcoin and those types of things. And sure enough, it has since gone even higher than where it currently is on this tweet. But again, it was a really simple trade that I took at that period of time, whilst also accumulating a lot of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Now, obviously, let's move into that a little bit more specifically. Now, I started to realize that after the FTX debacle, after a lot of on-chain sort of FUD, Solana was very much undersold, under about that $20 mark. So I remember the Ethereum run up from about $200 to about 4,000, or the peak was about 4.4 from memory last cycle. So that was about a 20x. Now, ultimately, Solana under $20 was an easy risk to reward trade because it was essentially oversold, even though there was a lot of developers jumping on chain and using it essentially to try and develop the chain further with DeFi, but obviously NFTs and obviously meme coins to come. But ultimately, I did start to realize that this is one of the top L1s in the space. So anything that I can get my hands on under that $20 mark for Solana was the best trade to make. And so ultimately, what I was looking at was this chart here. And as you can see, it had retested this previous low, previous resistance multiple times and failed to break above it. But what we saw was that I had started to use my trading knowledge from the previous cycles and realized it was starting to put in higher lows. And ultimately, I started to really aggressively accumulate Solana here during this period of time. These two lows here, I started buying really aggressively every single day, all the way up to about $30 once it started to break out here. And ultimately, that was a fantastic trade. And to back that up, guys, why I chose Solana over Ethereum during that time was because of this chart here. And obviously, its pair against Ethereum and Bitcoin. But ultimately, it had bottomed out several times against not only BTC, but obviously against Ethereum. And just to show you what that looks like, this is the chart here. I was using my trading knowledge, my experience to realize, okay, this looks like it's about to break out. It's oversold, okay? People are actually using this chain for NFTs, for meme coins, for DeFi, and so much more than that, obviously. And so as we have seen it in the past, right, this has actually outperformed 3x so far, or sorry, 4x this cycle so far at an all-time high. But ultimately, it currently is sitting at still a 3x outpacing Bitcoin. And so I started to be really aggressive. I de-risked actually a lot of my Ethereum and a lot of my Bitcoin during this period of time and allocated way more into my Solana bag. It is even crazier, the comparison for ETH. So ultimately, we were setting lows, lower lows, lower highs. We went all the way down. We set a double bottom here, guys. We actually broke out. We retested this trend, and here was the absolute load up opportunity for me. And ultimately, guys, to the current price action right now, that remains a 7.6x outperforming Ethereum. And so again, you have to take some of these trades like this over a long period of time, and a lot of wealth and a lot of my wealth has been made from making smart decisions during the bear market and then capitalizing on that even more when the bull market and the volume and the liquidity returns. All right, so moving on. So Solana obviously was my main bet after making a really nice bag on Casper. My targets for Solana still remain an all-time high where I will start to scale a lot of profits then. The next best trade that I made over the past year was Radium. So I started to realize way back here in mid last year, so this is even before I was really bullish on Solana, is that Radium was super undervalued because it was the main DEX that was being used before Jupiter, okay, before meme coins even came along, and they had a lot of revenue making streams. And so I started accumulating a lot of Radium down here at $50 million market cap. And obviously Fast Track, I'm not sure when this tweet was, a couple months ago, Fast Track a couple months ago, and this has outperformed it obviously has pumped over a 12.2x, guys. So ultimately Radium, I still have my bag on there. It has obviously come back down to this 1.5 level now, but that was another big trade that I made based on fundamentals and based on TA. And again, that chart was very oversold. It was accumulating very nicely, and obviously it had that narrative, that meta of being on Solana. And ultimately, that's that's where I started to realize that that was even a better trade because meme coins started to take off. Now, ultimately, I started on Ethereum meme coins. I traded LMI and Joe, Kekek, and made a lot of money on these particular 3 trades. And obviously I traded a lot more. And as time went on, gas started to be a lot more expensive. That's where the Solana narrative even took off even further. I started accumulating more Solana even more. I transferred all my Ethereum back over to the Solana during this period here because Solana was starting to become the hotspot for a lot of meme coins. And so ultimately, over the period of time, I started to make crazy gains on both Ethereum meme coins and then obviously Solana meme coins. And being faster and cheaper, it meant that you could make so many better gains and could get out of positions better when trading on Solana. Now, ultimately, guys, what I have continued to do this cycle and what made me a lot of money previously in the last 2 cycles was buying extreme fear during a bull market. Now, obviously, accumulating during a bear market is such a valuable skill. And if you can hold your grit, okay, limit your emotions, you can make a lot of smart choices during those bear market times. And ultimately, the best opportunity that I have seen in my experience over the past 9 years, where we are very much in the most bullish time in crypto's history, is essentially buying when we are fearful or when we are in extreme greed. And we've seen that a couple times so far this cycle, but there has not been a better opportunity than right now actually to essentially accumulate. So for me, I've been again buying Bitcoin, buying Solana mainly, and I've started to really DCA into some memes and some other top altcoins like Jupiter and Radium, okay, Mog and Pepe, those types of memes. WIF is another one that ultimately will likely outperform because they are finally at levels that I think is a much better risk to reward situation than what they were previously earlier this year. Now, ultimately, patience, guys. This is the one thing that, again, whilst this is the easiest alpha I can give you, is buying fear during a bull market, but then obviously scaling profits. And we'll talk about that very shortly because a lot of people don't make a lot of profit because they fail to take profits. And I'll talk to you about those lessons and how I've managed to do that successfully this cycle, which has, again, been one of the main catalysts that has really transformed me from turning maybe say 5 grand into 100 or 200 grand, but really push that up into that 600, 500K sort of region. And it's patience, guys. So bull market, post-halving to bull market peaks, as you can see, it takes time. This is like nearly 3 years, guys, okay? So ultimately, you need to be patient. We're only in the first innings, honestly, of this whole journey. And so you just need to be patient. And crypto, particularly Bitcoin, is going nowhere at all. And it will be, for sure, probably the most best performing asset in history in the next sort of 15 to 20, 25, 30 years, guys. So that's where I'm saying. Now, 2 of my biggest trades this cycle came from NFTs. Now, even though NFTs really haven't seen the same liquidity this time, the same interest, mainly because a lot of people are trading multi-chain, but my main 2 strategies still remain the same. Take aggressive profits this time around, Greeny. And ultimately, I did that on my Mad Lad. So I bought Mad Lad here at 15th of 11th last year, and I sold it for up here at the 3rd of the 3rd. So ultimately, I sold it up here at about 177 Solana, and I got in at 80 Solana. So I made a bag of 90 Solana over the course of about 3 months, and that was when, and again, Solana was $51 here, but I was aggressively accumulating at sub 20. I think I did have a few buy orders up around 30 as well. So for me, this is when Solana was at 133 before then running to $210 per Solana, right? So for me, this was a massive trade. I think it was like 50,000 Australian dollars that I made from one single trade. And ultimately, I started to realize at this period here that we were starting to lose a bit of sentiment. Okay, this was obviously during March when everyone was so euphoric. Bitcoin had obviously hit new all-time highs. And so for me, I was like, okay, lessons that I've learned from last cycle is to take profit. And so what I did is I was like, you're never going to time the top. You're never going to time the bottom. Be happy that you have made over 50,000 Australian dollars on this particular trade. And so I scaled out of that one. The next best trade, guys, was actually BTC puppets. I managed to get in here at about 0.4 BTC. I bought 3 of these, okay? And I managed to trade all 3 of them for several gains. So the first one I sold up at this level, this first peak here at about 0.1. So I made a really nice about 2.5x. The second one I sold again up here at this next pump at about 0.1. So again, I made a nice juicy 2.x. And then ultimately I sold my last one up here in that 0.24, sort of 0.23 region, guys. And ultimately I walked away with about 0.4, 0.3 Bitcoin. And that was a lot of money again at the same time, because as you can see, this peak lined up with March, okay? And that was when Bitcoin was at 74K. So I made 0.4 Bitcoin at $74,000. And I was like, okay, that's crazy. I need to start scaling from this. And as I see, like, I didn't time the top, guys, but I managed to scale profits, and over time that was the smart decision. And so that's a lesson that I have learned over the past 9 years, is that people fail to take profits, and I've done that multiple times this time. And what I do is rotate my profits back into my two main plays this cycle, and that is Bitcoin and that is Solana. So where I started to really, and again, this sort of just talks about it a little bit further as well in that particular tweet. But ultimately, guys, what I'm trying to do now is really capitalize on meme coin plays, okay? NFTs if there is a good opportunity, and obviously DeFi if you have the time, but also futures trading is where I really am starting to capitalize on swing trades, on scalp trades, to really capitalize my portfolio. So really focus on a niche. So I would say about 20% of my portfolio is in high risk, high reward potential plays. So I'm talking meme coins, I'm talking NFTs, and I'm talking leverage futures. The rest of my portfolio remains in Bitcoin, Solana, Radium. I have obviously bought AVAX recently, Jupiter, as I said, PEPE and MOG, and a little bit of WIF. Those are my main plays at the moment. Casper, I will be looking for a dip if that does come, but I keep that portfolio over on the side, and I'll only start to scale profits once Bitcoin starts to maybe reach another new all-time high, once Solana gets close to that $250 level. And ultimately what I'm trying to do in that period of time, whilst that spot portfolio just sits there and doesn't do too much, is really sort of compound my gains with meme coins, with NFTs, and with futures trading as much as possible over the timeline. So again, if you aren't following me on Twitter, I post a lot of trades here, guys. As you can see, this one's up 1.7x in the past day already. So follow me there. But ultimately, I really hope that this story of mine, where I've made a lot of fails and and where I've made a lot of mistakes, really gives you insight into what it actually takes to become a smarter and better investor or trader in cryptocurrency. So obviously, let me know if you like this style of video in the description below. More than happy to do this style of video from time to time if people really enjoy it. And obviously, let me know your story in the comments down below. I'd love to learn what your story is, your fails or your succeeds. Okay, your failures or your successes, and those types of things. So obviously, let me know down below. Thanks for watching. So there's my story, guys. I hope you really enjoyed it. And if you did, please subscribe down below. Smash a like button as well, guys. And obviously, if you'd like to support the channel a little bit further, become a YouTube member, signing up using the link in the description below. And obviously, guys, do check out my trading group where I give alpha, I give education, and I give analysis every single day in the cryptocurrency market. As always, guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.